After World War II, U.S. foreign policy came to be defined by opposition to communism and Cold War with the Soviet Union. Beginning in 1950, the undeclared Korean War brought many Americans to the country divided at its 38th parallel to combat the North Koreans and their Chinese and Soviet allies. Leonard Kravitz and Tiber Rubin received the Medal of Honor for actions in Korea. Rubin was the only Holocaust survivor and Medal of Honor recipient. The extended war in Vietnam saw millions of American soldiers sent to Southeast Asia. Though anti-war sentiment was high from the soldiers' perspective, they were there with a job to do and responsibilities to fulfill. Both volunteers and draftees fought with that purpose. Jewish Americans served as all other Americans did.
Paul Zondervan was a Marine serving with the 3rd Marine Division in Vietnam in 1967. He was stationed at Phu Bai, and they were holding Jewish high holiday services in Da Nang, so he made the trip down. At these services, they were handing out these camouflage kippot, yarmulkes. They were made from the same material that they made these camouflage tents from. They created them specifically for these high holiday Jewish services. Jewish services were often a little taste of home, a little taste of the culture from home. And these services really were a way for the men to reconnect with themselves as something of a refuge from war.
Jack Jacobs and John Levitow earned the Medal of Honor in Vietnam.
John Levitow was a young airman first class. He was a crew chief on a gunship, an AC-47 gunship, that one night was circling over a Special Forces camp in the northern part of South Vietnam. At one particular point of the flight, a mortar shell hit the airplane and blew a hole in the fuselage. John was riddled with shrapnel in his back, 40-some-odd wounds, bleeding, and the loadmaster, who was the one that would throw out the flares, had a flare in his arms and had armed it and was getting ready to throw it out when the mortar shell hit and dropped it on the floor. Levitow, sliding in his own blood, made several attempts to get it. He finally was able to grab a hold of it and threw it out of the airplane just as it ignited, saving both the airplane and the crew. And for these activities, of course, he was awarded the Medal of Honor.
Americans were brought to the Middle East to fight for the Gulf War in 1991. Among the Jewish Americans sent there was Rabbi Bonnie Koppel, the first female Jewish chaplain to serve in the U.S. military. The conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan that arose after September 11, 2001, have brought more men and women into dangerous roles. At least 57 Jewish Americans have been killed in service.
It's important that we remember the contributions Jewish Americans have made to our country's defense. Regardless of stereotypes, the record of Jewish service is a proud one. Here at the National Museum of American Jewish Military History, we'll continue to tell the stories of my comrades who've served in the armed forces.